Dear students, it is the third video about week 16, and in this video we are going to cover the internal determinants of the foreign policy. Dear students, foreign policy is conditioned by certain internal and external factors. These factors include geography, history, population, economic factors, development, national and military capacity, ideology, public opinion, decision makers, and domestic instability. Well, in foreign policy of the country, geographical location is a very key point. The size of state, topography, shape, location, and climate are the important components of the foreign policy. A country having large size, position in middle of the regional varieties, having a sea, is called to be very lucky. Let's, for example, Pakistan from geographical location is wonderfully placed. However, Pakistan is not that advanced and a strong economy, yet since 1947 till the present day, Pakistan is a key player in the region and the international politics just because of its geography. Yes, Pakistan having been placed in Eurasian plate and Indian plate and being linked with Indian Ocean and the Arabian Sea is a major position. From one side, on the eastern side and north and south and northeast, China, India, Russia, vast areas of the Central Asia, and then Eurasian regions like Turkey and others, and then Pakistan is linked with the Gulf. And Gwadar, the CPAC, now the game changer, is just a potential because of its geographical location, its natural structure that gives it the status of the naturally in-depth harbor of the world. Clear? And since 1947, Pakistan is involved directly in the international conflict. Be they are Americans, Russians, Indians, Chinese, Western countries, or even it is Arabian countries in war of 1973 or others when Pakistan helped out the Arabian countries. Well, so geography is a very important factor. Interestingly, India is a huge country, but geographically that is not that wonderful as compared to Pakistan. Well, geography of the country is a natural defense. Pakistan is surrounded by one side highest mountains, the Himalayas, Karakoram, Hindu Kush, clear. On the other side are the Balochistan Plateau and the dry mountains, clear, rivers, fine, deserts, forests. These are a wonderful potential for the country in case of the any misadventure by any country. Let's, for example, Indians tried to violate the international boundary through their aircrafts in on 27th of the February, I think, but Pakistan responded quickly. And whereas when Pakistan attacked, Indian had to lose their jets and one or two of their uh, pilots were taken into custody. History is a very important factor in designing the foreign policy because our nation since years have the series of experiments with the various nations. For example, Pakistan is dealing India right from 1947 with the Kashmir dispute, and now when they are including, they're talking about the Kashmir dispute, they have a history that is telling them the lessons about the nature of the Indian foreign policy. Similarly, Pakistan has a series of the relationship with Afghanistan, and these relationships help Pakistan to formulate the relations with India. With Afghanistan. Fine. So history is a very strong component. Population uh, is a decisive component in the foreign policy because highly populated countries need more food, more employment, more resources. Thereby, they had to develop relations with the other countries in terms of trade, import and export, and many other ways. More population is a huge benefit. The more you are, the more chances to win are. And luckily, Pakistan is among those nations where the youth are maximum. Fine. And this is the reason that Pakistan gets young people in army, police, in the departments. And young people are more committed and they can do more work as compared to the old people because old have served well. But a man without proper strong energy cannot survive more. Economic factors also uh, are the major contributor in the uh, foreign policy. Clear? For example, Chinese are developed foreign policies, their economic base. They develop economic relations. They make trade. They make agreements. Clear? So, for example, India had very long sustaining relationship with Iran, and they had been they had started working on many projects, but Chinese had offered Iranians more attractive offers than India, clear, and they have compelled Iran not to interfere into CPAC or not to assist India or any other opponent of the Pakistan in terms of the CPAC. Clear? So every country makes the foreign policy into the economic terms. Look at this. For example, recently Arabian countries are exerting pressure on Pakistan. Saudi Arabia demanded their money back. Arab Emirates have walked out from providing Pakistan natural gas and other. Clear? So these are the economic factors. Whereas Azerbaijan came to assist Pakistan and they have offered Pakistan with the fuel provision on the cheap rates. Development is a very major factor in the foreign policy because the developed countries generate more revenue. They can spend on their army, infrastructure, physical development of the country, and so they can control the world, or at least they can sustain their uh, interests by more power. For example, Western countries have designed NATO, clear, led by America. So the expenses of the NATO simply can be afforded by those nations. Poor nations cannot afford those expenses. National and military capacity is one of the most striking factor. Number one, the country who are nationally strong, they have a nationhood. They love their region, their people, their culture, their religion. Plus, if they come into army with missionary purposes and they have the strong military presence, they can safeguard their nations. And likewise, in Pakistan, Pakistan is not less than a military power as compared to its size and resources. Within limited resources and having been surrounded by so many conspiracies internally and externally, Pakistan military capacity is remarkable. Right from 1947, Pakistan is continuously engaged with India in a long-standing war. Pakistan had to fight materially against Israel in 1961 and many other times. Pakistan has practically helped Arabian countries. Pakistani had helped Turkey and they helped the people in Bosnia Herzegovina. Pakistan helped the Sri Lankans against Tamil Nadu. Clear? So there are many things that Pakistan is doing. Plus we are atomic power, missile system is wonderful, short weapons and other weaponry is excellent. Warships are being produced. So national and military capacity is the greatest benefit. And interestingly, Pakistan is the greatest contributor of army in the world peace projects of the United Nations. Ideology. Ideology plays an important role in the foreign policy. And the ideological principles become a strong means of rules and regulations. For example, let me talk about the 3 or 4 ideological nations in the world and see that how their ideology drives them into the national and international conflicts. Number 1, Israel. Number 2, Pakistan. Number 3, Iran. Number 4, now India. They are 3 are ideologically already, and 4th has just converted into the ideological state. Like Israelis want to revive the reign of Solomon, King Solomon, and for this purpose they have developed a strategy and they are capturing land by all means, by fighting, jeopardizing, trick, conspiracies. Number two, Iran. Iran has, after the 1979, is reviving the old ancient ancient Persian civilization. And as you all know, that old Iranian civilization was destroyed by Arabs, and that's why they are the enemies of the Arabs. Plus, they are also having another ideology parallel to revive the Khilafah of the earlier times, and thereby there is a complete struggle between them, and this is all because of the ideology. Plus, India nowadays is ideologically different. India in the beginning came to be a secular state, but for last couple of decades, Hindutva ideology has dominated everything. Initially, under this capacity, they destroyed Muslims, they destroyed Dalits, they destroyed other freedom fighters and states, and finally, they have handover on the farmers, especially on Punjab. And in Indian Punjab, they are changing huge change. Number one, they are taking back some proper from their productions. Number two, they are making policies and they have diverted most of their waters into the other areas. So, by all means, they are restricting and trying to convert into a pure Hindu state. Well, next is public opinion, that foreign policy dependent on the public opinion. Clear? Since India is trying to misfigure Pakistan, and in the most recent news, India had made many channels, many fake scholars which were defaming Pakistan and promoting the Pakistan's negative culture. And unfortunately, this has really given a huge dent. Decision makers make a very important uh, policy. For example, Qaid Azam said that we won't accept Israel because it is illegitimate state. So we still are not accepting it. However, the pressure is being exerted. Domestic instability helps you design the foreign policy. Clear? For example, Indians have always, whenever they had internal conflicts, they had named it after Pakistan. Let's, for example, Indians by themselves have unjust rules and regulations, whereas they are naming protesters as Pakistanis and Naskal Mardis and others. So, in short, these were the components that we have discussed. Thank you very much.